Well, you fancy that? As I choke myself half to death. Merry Christmas, everyone, or to those of you who celebrate. If you're more of my inclination, Yuletide greetings, season's greetings. I hope you marked the solstice. Enjoyed looking up into the sky and thinking, good God, there's going to be more light soon. and in fact, we're not greeted by any additional light because it's been so stormy. Before we get cracking, firstly, let me go big face. No hat. I can't find my hat. The former hat. It's nowhere to be seen. However, I have brought a glass. Firstly, yeah. It's the old In-City APT glass. There, very nice. Can never get it to focus, but you get the picture. A glass of, I think, possibly one in a raffle, because I wouldn't normally go for something. It's a very standard port Coburn's, but it does the job. There we go, and that'll do for now. And also I have, as I push that cap back in, I also have a single, because there's never time to eat in an episode, is there? A single frangipane mince pie. They're very good, the frangipane mince pies. Sainsbury's frangipane mince pies, highly recommended, very nice. Gareth points out the solstice was about 5:30. That's true. Some people get out and run around in their pants, don't they? Anyway, cheers to the end of a dreadful year for a lot of people. And that's a globally awful year. Personally, probably better for some people, possibly worse for other people. Hello to the 4 of you watching. Oh, not bad. Very nice to have you along for this live festive episode. I didn't have time to do any pre-records. Emily and I will do something different and special in the springtime, I'm sure. And certainly we'll plan something bigger and better for next year. But frankly, it's not Emily's job to sort me out, and I was too disorganised to organise anything. We have lots of friends in the chat. Hello, lovelies! All these lovely people in the chat. Martha's here. Hello, Martha. I'm glad you're in the chat, causing a general ruckus as often you do. Ewan Cartwright, as someone whose trains were totally broken today, I'm coming to this episode with fists clenched. Yeah. We might talk a bit about that today. Let's get on with things. We don't want this to be like a long episode, do we? We want to enjoy an episode where we talk. This make discussions about all sorts of things. Anyway, right? I'll stop waffling and we'll crack on. Right. So yeah, I had no idea it was Wednesday either. Master Trams. Right. Let me get rid of my face because it is episode 198 of Rail Natter. Should Britain stop closing the railway at Christmas? I posted something about this on Twitter. Then some influencers copied my tweet. They didn't necessarily copy it. They just spotted it and thought, oh, that's an interesting point. And other people were generally discussing it. The Campaign for Better Transport had just published an article on it. So strangely enough, lots of independent people independently coming up with this thing. It happens every year, but sometimes it's used as well, you know what, we'll get to that. This is episode 198. What else have we got to add before I continue things onwards? Right. Well, it's about this. It's about the fact that whether we like it or not, people move around a lot on Christmas Eve, but particularly on Boxing Day and indeed on Christmas Day itself. We have unconventional families. We have people who don't care about Christmas Day and they're just trying to get on with their life. Britain is a bizarre combination of being one of the world's most secular populations, as in people who are just totally irreligious and say religion plays little or no part in their life, on the highest percentages in the world of the population, versus one of the most entrenched constitutional and legal religiousnesses. We have a constitutional monarchy. Well, we don't have. Well, we have a monarchy. We have the Church of England is embedded deeply into the functioning of the state. And we have schools, huge numbers of schools that are religious schools, and we close everything on Sundays, and we close everything on Christmas Day and around Easter. It's very, very, very strange. But anyway, all of that's going to play into the discussion. This is going to be a discursive episode. We're going to have some nice chats about this, because it's an interesting discussion to be had. And anyway, more on that later. In any case, let us press on with the episode. It did, yeah. Christmas just a yeah. It did. Other people go way back and actually celebrate Christmas vigorously because of its pagan roots, which of course are substantial. Yeah, hence the solstice thing. And I kind of feel nice. Lots of people feel nice around Christmas time. There's a general nice vibe. That's fine. Anyway, right, enough of me waffling. Everyone, welcome to the Nice Rail Natter. Fades away. Oh, it's a good mince pie, that. A very good mince pie. We must start with a rather grim series of photos showing what's just happened in Bry Ferry, on the east coast, on a bit of railway I used to travel on a lot when I lived up in Inverurie. A tree has walloped an HST, or rather an HST has walloped the tree. The tree was obviously where it shouldn't be. The cab, thankfully the driver is okay, although shaken up. But you can see what mess that tree has made of the cab, and it's just another reminder of how totally inadequate that cab is. There is no crash structure there. And I pointed this out on Twitter, and these are pictures that are rather grim, to say the least. I should possibly even put up a content warning, but the driver is okay, and this is just a load of... just imagine this is a bath that someone's dropped a fire extinguisher onto from a height of 100 metres, because that's essentially the same effect. Lots of people are going, well, why aren't you talking about clearing vegetation off the railways? Well, I do quite regularly, in fact, but you can never eliminate that risk. It's just not possible to completely eliminate that risk. There are a lot of parts of the railway where the railway boundary is not 20, 30 metres away from the running edge. It's very close, and there are forest trees in adjacent landowners' land that the railway has no control over. Ash dieback is continuing to bite, so there are dangerous trees, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dangerous trees around the network that the railway can't do much about. So we will never be able to eliminate that risk. The other reason why I get angry about it is, if you remember back to our Carmen episode, because a different decision could have been made not that long ago. I look forward to the RAIB report, by the way, on that collision at Bry Ferry. We'll see what they say, we'll see what the analysis is, and we'll see if ASLEF tighten up their language around their assertion of when they are, what they're going to do about those trains. Anyway, a reminder of what the Carmen episode. So the cost of the 12.5-year HST fleet, 475 million in 2015 prices, by the way. The cost of a Stadler Flirt fleet for 40 years, 613 million. So not that much extra for 40 years of train, not 12.5 years of train, and only 671. A little bit extra on top of that gave you some IET derivatives. Yes, as I say, in 2015 prices. So a decision was made to skimp out on about 100 million, which as a percentage of the overall cost was not that much, and they could have gone for brand new state-of-the-art trains with actual crashworthiness. This is why I get angry about it. It's not, people go, well, you'd have to renew all the other trains, the 158s and the other sprinters. Well, yes, at some point we will, but those trains weren't the ones up for renewal, and we had the opportunity to renew them. The HSTs were. The HSTs had been brought onto the ScotRail network as an active decision by foolish people in Transport Scotland who kidded themselves into thinking that those HSTs were uniquely popular for passengers, which, by the way, they were not. Anyway, enough of that. Let's jump to something very funny and also very angering as well. Oh dear. Here's me quote tweeting the Department for Transport. Happens enough. And indeed, so this is the Department for Transport. This is me saying this is the Department for Transport taking the piss, because they are. The DFT Twitter account, possibly someone possibly a rogue civil servant deliberately pointing out how stupid this all is. This is a tweet saying, "We've confirmed funding for each London borough to ensure millions of road users enjoy smoother and safer journeys." Firstly, this is them deliberately trying to swing the mayoral elections in London. So pork barrel politics immediately at play. Next one. This is only possible due to 8.3 billion of extra investment, which this is a stupid long tweet that's got extra text in it, but basically saying the money's come from HS2. Let's just zoom in on their graphic here. What can we notice about this graphic, I wonder? There's a couple of things going on here that I think are worthy of note. Number one, made possible by rerouted HS2 funding that's a lie. That's just a lie, flat out. That's not how this works. You know, even if you say that is how this works, the HS2 funding wouldn't have been going out of the project. You know, it wouldn't have been paying into the project yet. So what are they on about? Second thing that's very funny is, because this is London. Okay, so London. Why have they put the Network North project logo down here? North. This was a bit on the nose for even the DFT, because they what's quite funny is Mark Harper started tweeting all sorts of numbers saying this goes to here, this is from, you know, so this was something about 8.3 billion. This is 8.3 billion, by the way, which Mark Harper then started pretending was savings from Euston Station, which the number he made up was a different number, which was 6 billion, which is also a made up number. So they promptly deleted that tweet and deleted a load of other tweets too. This is just beyond satire. I mean, it's difficult to really process how ridiculous the whole thing is. It's insulting, of course, and everyone picked up on it. And so hence, they for once, they decided to delete it. Hello to all the lovely 80 people watching, by the way. It's lovely to have you along. All 80 of you on a Christmassy evening. How very nice. Anyway, here's Katie Rother, who still wants 2 meters. Imagine having... Katie cycles, by the way. Well worth following Katie. Katie pointing out, quoting a Guardian article, "Imagine having the problem, rabbit ears, of having to reduce rail ridership or rail usership. Imagine. Now meet Britain 2023, where the transport strategy, if there is one, is so totally screwed up that this is what is going to happen. What a total, utter, sadly unsurprising balls up." Yeah, this is basically this is the Guardian pointing out this is what I've been saying and other people have been saying for a very long time, that if you don't have HS2, fares will rise even more rapidly and there will be more congestion on the railways. Funnily enough, so this is based on a Network Rail sort of statement, or some Network Rail statements pointing out, and other sort of stuff saying, and the DFT indeed saying, well, we'll have to use more fare rises to manage demand. So basically reduce the number, or stifle demand by increasing fares, which obviously, as we know, given we want to have double the number of passengers on the railway within the next kind of decade, basically, is absolutely baffling. But we said it would happen. This is what happens if you cancel HS2. We told you so, etc. There's no joy in it, none at all. Meanwhile, the government, who has done a nice little statement here. Actually, Mark seems to have stolen his thunder, but who seemed to be the one who was actually making the statement. Government sets ambitious target to grow rail freight by at least 75%. Target will boost economic growth, lead to significant environmental, but yeah, all these good things. Yeah, sure. 2 points. Number one, this is a meaningless number if you don't bring up what the actual capacity of the, what the actual mode shift will be from roads. Because if you're growing rail freight by at least 70% and that's just mapped onto real-time growth of the economy, then that doesn't really mean very much. If you're reducing road usage and bringing it onto rail, then that does start meaning something. But obviously there is nothing about mode shift, so this is a meaningless target in and of itself. That's point number one. Point number two, this is impossible without HS2 in full. So, fantastic work from the DFT there. Right, jumping to a different story entirely. Lock your doors, yeah. West Coast Railways has lost its court case, so it's not able to operate coaches without central door locking. Here's Pip Dunn highlighting this. Pip doesn't agree with this ruling. This means the Jacobite and other charter trains will either have to be operated by different train operating companies which do have central door locking stock, or West Coast Railways will have to source suitable stock. This is not something that's come out of the blue, by the way. This is a ruling for the charter trains, heritage trains running on the main line have to have central door locking. this is quite a reasonable thing for the railway to ask of the trains running on the system. Given the Jacobite runs regularly, the Jacobite's the service that runs from Fort William to Mallaig. It runs regularly. It's timetabled. It has a lot of people travelling on it. There is no safety justification for not having central door locking. The West Coast Railways have been going, we will go bankrupt if we have to do this. This is not, firstly, not true, as we see on Phil Haig's tweet here, pointing out an interesting part of the witness evidence, pointing out that the company has over 100,000 passenger journeys on the Jacobite line, which generates around 5 million in fare income and 6 million in turnover per annum. The average return ticket is £46.58, and the average profit is £1 million. The average profit is £1 million per annum. From that profit, they could pay for this. This is £1 million worth of work they need to do, I think, essentially. They could do this work. They could easily afford to do this work. And also, it's been a very, very long... This has been a very long time in the works. What a very long time in the works. They could have done this a long time ago. The mainline railway is not a heritage plaything, and unfortunately West Coast Railways continue to show that they have a really poor safety culture, deep-rooted poor safety culture, which is disappointing because I don't want anyone to pay any money to Jeremy Hosking and LSL, the other major charter operation. So, yeah, disappointing. Anyway, funnily enough, you look at the cash situation for West Coast Railway Company Limited, they're doing fine. They've got 4 million in cash just in the bank. They're okay. They could afford this. So I don't know who it is within the organisation that doesn't want to relinquish that cash, but just spend the money on the stock, put central door locking in, it's fine. Here's a nice little bit of good news. Paris, here's Brent Tadarian picking this up. A startling statistic emerged in Paris last month. During the morning and evening rush hours on representative main thoroughfares crisscrossing the French capital, there are now more bicycles than cars, almost half as many again, in fact. It is possible, folks. CDL is central door locking disconnect. It is possible. It is possible to make this change. What's good in Paris is that the mayor's just gone. You to the driving community, and has just solved the problem, and everyone loves it. The vast majority of people love it. Hence, she keeps getting voted back in. Funny that. Anyway. The Rail Baltica episode that I need to do very soon. People are asking, right, okay, disconnect. You know what? It's a very good point. I'm talking about central door locking without explaining what it is. Let's get my big face up. Central door locking is, if you imagine your car, and it used to be that if you unlock the door in your car, you've only unlocked that one door, and you have to walk around the car and unlock the door on the other side as well. Well, that used to be the same for trains, except that you just didn't have all the doors locked because you didn't have 100 guards on every single door along the train, so you just didn't have locked doors. So central door locking is where you can, the guard, the train manager, whoever it happens to be, or indeed the driver, in some instances, has control over the doors, so they can centrally unlock all the doors at once, so the doors can be locked to stop people doing what they did quite a bit in the days before central door locking, which is falling out of the train drunk. So don't get me wrong, fitting central door locking to Mark 1 and indeed Mark 2 stock, but particularly Mark 1 stock, so that much older coaching stock, is hard work. There's some fantastic... Hastings have done it with their diesel rail cars, I think. It's some serious work. But it's work that can be done and should be done. It just can and should be done. The Bridge Enthusiast, hello the Bridge Enthusiast. SVR, the Severn Valley Railway don't need it, presumably because it just runs its own little route. Yes, Heritage Railways on their own can run. They can continue running heritage stock. Different situation, you accept a different level of risk, and if you're getting on a heritage train, there's an expectation that it's a different sort of vehicle. Whereas if you're even if you're travelling as a passenger on the main line on a charter vehicle, for the Jacobite, tourists might be expected for that train to provide the same level of safety as the train they've just got off. A lot of that. Unfortunately, the Jacobite is the Harry Potter train. So lots and lots of tourists get on it, and they get off, and they might quite reasonably expect the safety provision on that train to be the same as the Sprinter they've just hopped off at Fort William. So, let me if it's a slam door one, you could open it and it be hit by passing trains. Yes, again, that, in fact, I've been on trains where that's happened back in the day when I was travelling on cross-country trains with Mark II and Mark III coaches pulled by 47. I am old enough for that to still be a thing. Anyway, yes, so, sorry, enough of that. Good question. Thanks for asking. Disconnect, quite reasonable for you to ask the question. So, let me get rid of my silly face. And, Rail Baltica, we'll have the episode soon. There have been a couple of suggestions for people to come in and join. To be guests to talk about Rail Baltica. I really want to talk about Rail Baltica, but the news on Rail Baltica is that the first contract for mainline construction has been signed in Latvia. This is not a project without problems, but it's starting to happen, which is very good. Physical delivery has begun. Design continues. Physical delivery as the contract has been signed. So that's exciting. And as a bit of light-hearted finale news, Jim Picard of the FT picking up that it's objectively quite funny that after all the tub thumping about imperial measurements, barely 1% of the public want them back. This is funny. So here's from the consultation. Consultations are good, by the way, folks. We should do that. What the responses said, the results of our analysis showed that 98.7% of respondents were in favour of using metric units when buying or selling product, either as the primary unit of sale or as the sole unit of sale. 1.3% of respondents were in favour of increased use of imperial units when buying or selling products, either by increased choice between using metric and imperial units or moving to a purely imperial system. Do you want to know how many people want to move to a purely imperial system? 0.4% of respondents. Lol. I enjoyed this very much. Some fun data there anyway for you to pick through. Yeah, Britain says nope to imperial units, which is nice. So this is relevant to the railways because people often, not often, every now and then someone comes back to me with this sort of thing when I refer to kilometres, miles, kilometres versus miles, or meters versus, or millimeters versus feet and inches. Anyway, enough of that. Because in a kind of a transition from the news to not the news, I'm going to bring my face up in the corner. Hello, it's me with a drink. Just. Oh, that's nice. There's a Guardian article that came out. James Tapper wrote, all the hits, Martha, today. Harry Potter and the Guardian, I'm so sorry. Saturday the 23rd of this year. Because the Campaign for Better Transport are pointing out that they, it's an interesting article. You know what? I have said article here. There's an article, that was fairly seamless, wasn't it? Bloody hell. Wait a minute. Can I repeat that? That was remarkably slick. Oh yeah, look at that. Nice. Anyway, keep UK trains running at Christmas and save engineering works for January, say campaigners. Yeah, the Campaign for Better Transport. There's a little chat here about things that I found interesting. Quotes that I found interesting were that National Highways removed 1,000 miles of roadworks on the 19th of December for drivers during the festive getaway. This, for me, is like typifies the problem. It's like the roads are clearing the barriers for people to travel, whereas the railways literally erect the barriers and close the railway, which is completely the wrong way around. There's lots of good data this way. Michael Solomon Williams, campaigns manager from the Campaign for Better Transport, is kind of pushing this, kind of banging this drum, pushing this case. There's lots of good data in here. There's lots of issues with problems. Anyway, basically, let me scroll back up and seamlessly switch back to my slides in a way that you mostly don't notice. Basically, this is a discussion that is to the fore, and we've basically not really Christmas. We stopped running services on Christmas Day in the 70s on the rail network. So this is not an ancient tradition. This is not something that's at a time immemorial. It's pretty recent that we stopped doing it. We stopped doing it because if you remember the 1970s and where passenger ridership was at the time in the 1970s, it was right at the bottom. It was right at the very. In fact, you know what? Let me just quickly get something up that might be relevant. There, this little Excel spreadsheet that I was working on that you might find interesting. Right, here it is. I'm just going to dump this up here, and you can have a look. So here is a nice graph of this is the graph of station openings that was playing with earlier. If you didn't see this, then it was my pin tweet for a while. You can go back and have a look. I'll probably do an episode on it at some point. What you can see here is ridership, actually journeys in the millions, and you can see that the bottom of those journeys was through the 70s and into the early 80s, at which point it started picking up rapidly as sectorization and general BR-ness kind of picked up traction. So those Christmas, as you can imagine, if ridership isn't at an all-time low on the railways, then holiday time, Christmas Day ridership is going to be really small as well. However, we're carrying what's that? That was around 650 million journeys, whereas we're now carrying what's that? 1-2 times that much. Like we're carrying twice that many. Was that 12? So three times as many passengers on the railway now. It's a different time. We need to be thinking differently about and so we haven't thought about this, and we really ought to have. So yes, it actually dipped a little before privatisation, Gareth, because there was the early 90s recession, and it did plonk quite a bit. So this then kind of raises two big questions. Look at Colton Junction there, getting its new oily masts put in. What's interesting, I think they're putting in a cross-track cantilever, a boom across, but they appear to be using the existing masts, which is quite fun. They're just getting rid of the headspans through here to improve the reliability of the junction, which is nice. It will make the view slightly busier, so we'll have to see what my footbridge photo looks like. Good grief, we're knocking on time already. Look at this, right? Anyway, so two questions. First question is, should we run a better railway service over the holiday season? For example, should we run trains on Boxing Day and Christmas Day? And the second question is, should we concentrate all of our major works on the Christmas blockade? So there's two kind of separate questions. They're very much interrelated, but they are two separate questions. I did a little Twitter questionnaire earlier over on the Rail Natter podcast Twitter account, which you can go and follow if you don't already. Tonight's Rail Natter is all about what the railways are, whatever. Yeah, okay. So about 600 people voted, or 550 people voted on this one, which isn't bad. So specifically on the question of Christmas Day itself, and it was clearly from this question, I wanted to understand, what is everyone wants to run trains on Christmas Day, or is it kind of 50-50? And the reality is, it's pretty. There was certainly not a super majority. It's pretty mixed bag. There is a majority for people wanting to run trains on Christmas Day. 57% of people of those who voted want to run trains, and 43% don't. So there's certainly a majority for do, but I would also say there's a fair number who don't as well. I would say that's not a clear cut thing. My view is that we should be running, and actually, Martha, I'm glad you've joined, because I think this ties into tact, but we'll get that shortly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little vote, do a little poll, start a poll. Here we go, and I'm going to ask the same thing again. Should we run some trains on Xmas Day? Question mark. Yes, no. Start poll. There we go. So there's a poll running. Feel free to vote. Let's see. We're going to do a poll at the start. We're going to do a poll at the end and see if I've changed any of your minds. Let's not make the snow stop. That's a disaster. So, there we go. Let's have a look. So, people work on Christmas Day. How do those people get around if they don't have a car? Well, they have to use the bus or the train. But if there's no buses and trains running, then they're stuck. The railways are a public service, and they should run on they should run when people are doing things, which is every day. Now, right, let's get into the discussion of this, because this is going to be an open discussion. So the voting continues. Let's start with the first one. Should we run a better rail service over the holiday season? Let's start with a couple of thoughts. Firstly, nobody travels. We talked a bit about the fact that we stopped doing this because of the lack of revenue, the lack of ridership on Christmas Day, but that was at the lowest ebb of British rail travel. We're carrying 3 times as many people on the railways now. And the other point is, and this is the AA from last year, an awful lot of people drive over that period, not just Christmas Eve and Christmas Eve, but also over Christmas and on Boxing Day. So there's an enormous surge in the number of people who travel, and people are travelling longer distances, which are journeys perfectly suited for railways. And not everyone is carrying huge numbers of Christmas presents and what have you, and all their enormous family. A lot of people are just kind of going home. Students, people who don't have loads of stuff and are just having a nice trip back and forth and going this way, that way. So the number of people who then, the stories I've seen of people paying for taxis to get across. Emily, in fact, was paying for a taxi to get across London because there were no tube services running, no buses running. It's not very good. Meanwhile, this is today on Dromocta Pass. In fact, you know what we can do. Let's Traffic Scotland. Let's live eye views. There we go. They got rid of that website, didn't they? That's just this one. There we go. Let's go in here. Right, go in here and do this. Let's have a little look at what's going on. Let's have a look at what's going on in Dromocta right now. Oh yeah, looking a bit snowy, although they have cleared the road a bit better now. If we go back to me slide deck, you'll see that everything was stationary. What time is this? In the middle of the day or kind of early afternoon. Everything was stationary on the A9 over Dromocta. This is not enough snow to stop the trains. The trains could run happily in this, and today they were. But on Christmas Day, they could be running and getting people moved around far more safely than by road. Yes, I know there are lots of people in the chat, which we're going to come. There are loads of great points being made in the chat. We're going to come to all these. Simon C858 is saying, I'm a nurse and work all through the festive period, so as a public service, I think a reduced service on Christmas Day should be a thing. Yeah, absolutely. I think quite a lot of people share that view. I realise that on Rail Matter, we're going to get higher numbers than we did on the overall Twitter vote, because the Twitter vote I share with people I knew didn't think that a few drivers who kind of don't think we should run a Christmas Day service, and they shared it. So it was that's more representative. I realised that I've got an entrapped audience here. You all, it's a big old lump of groupthink here. Martha also paid 15 times train fare to breathe in fumes in a taxi through the Blackwall Tunnel and get horrendous travel sickness. Yep, that sounds horrible. So what might the service look like? This is the prompt. This is where I'm glad Martha's in. Martha, I should have almost messaged you and got you to join for a moment. I think this is where, if we had a better, more segregated service pattern, more of a tact, so a kind of a almost like a how to describe tact. We need to do an episode on tact in and of itself. Recommendations for guests, Martha, always welcome. Where you basically, it's like a heartbeat of flow of traffic, so that you all the fringe services feed the bigger services, feed the high speed services, and outwards again. So you get this kind of flow, so that everything ties into everything else. I think that the advantage of that is that as you increase the service frequency on the core, you increase the frequency on the fringes. Likewise, though, if you drop the frequency on the core, you consequently drop the frequency at the fringes. So the way that the service might look on Christmas Day is that you would have a service that allowed anyone to get from one part of the country to the other, but only one way. So whether you're going from the fringes to the core or from the core to the fringes, you can make that journey at some point during the day. So it would be much less than a Sunday service. It would be a very skeleton service, but it would be a service allowing people to make that journey. And ideally, certainly in areas of higher population, you'd maybe have a few opportunities to make that journey a day, but in rural areas you'd allow one or two trips of the day. Lots of people say, interestingly, lots of people talk about nurses and critical jobs, other public service roles, that the railways should be there for them and aren't, and it's not really good enough. But this isn't me bashing a lot of people. There seem to be a few people bashing drivers and going on about like minimum service level nonsense and just a load of absolute shit. But so the key thing is, okay, how does it work for operational staff? Well, this would absolutely not be part of normal rostering. You'd have to do it on a volunteer basis, because you are asking people to give up a day that continues to be really important to a lot of people. And lots of other people have it off. This period is kind of an enforced. I've been enforced out of the office and not allowed to work between Christmas and New Year by my company. So it is an enforced national holiday, and so this shouldn't be you're rostered, you have no choice. It said, no. People who are, people who are like, you know what, I'm up for the massive extra cash that I will earn from working on that day. I have no commitments, or you know what, I'm willing to, I've not done it for 4 or 5 years. I'll do it this time. I chip in and get involved. There's probably good crack that day. That's the way to do it. Should never be done as a full roster, as a formal rostering. Paul Prentice, hello Paul, lovely to have you with us. We could make a start with Sunday services on Boxing Day, yeah, absolutely, and local buses on both Christmas Day and Boxing Day, yeah, fully agree with that. You wouldn't do this, shouldn't do this overnight, but Boxing Day services. To be honest, what was really interesting is all the drivers who are saying no to Christmas Day running were all saying, yeah, we should really run trains on Boxing Day. But even on Boxing Day, I would say you'd still run this as a volunteer, kind of, not the normal rostering. I think it's, for me as well, I see that as an opportunity to kind of use that as a framework for other types of holidays. So to have volunteer rostering on other types of, other kind of, bank holidays and things. So you don't have it as a formal rostering. So that volunteer rostering might kind of improve welfare. We do have a decent pool of drivers, never big enough, but we do have a decent pool of drivers in the UK. It's not quite as bad as the US. So, that volunteer basis, I think could work. I think that's the right, I think that's the right approach. And generally everyone, as Gareth's saying, a general NHS approach, which is everyone takes their turn. But it's, if you've got a decent pool of drivers on a particular diagram, then that's not hugely onerous, and people can negotiate with each other, and generally it should be in good faith discussion on that front. It should not be anything enforcement. There should be no mandating of anything. And the burden might fall differently on different staff who are up for it, up for the cash. They're single, they don't really care, or they're cannot, whatever their life where they're at in life means they're quite happy to just work on Christmas Day and have a bit of time off other parts of the holiday period. Fine. But I really strongly feel like that. I really reiterate that. So if anyone's watching who is a driver, my view of this is I'm not taking the view that some of the other people on Twitter were going on about, like it's that it's some offensive thing that drivers don't take this day. No. People, for a lot of people saying it's their only day, guaranteed day off. Well, actually drivers should have that. That's indicative of working conditions that ought to be improved. It's why drivers get paid so much, and rightly so. Actually, drivers ought to have more days like that they feel like are, and it'd be quite nice. This is what I mean by this. This could be a framework for allowing that kind of voluntary rostering on more days of the year, because it'd be quite nice for more people to have a day that they feel is a more guaranteed day off that they can think about. Nicholas Roberts asks an excellent question, because it's not just drivers. What about station staff, signallers? In some cases, there may be very few signallers qualified for certain areas. Yeah, that's a very, very good point. And I think there's some interesting politics that comes in, because you don't want to, firstly, a signaller, when we're talking about 1 or 2 people who are capable of signalling a particular route, you don't want to somehow lessen the barrier for potential scabs to come in and signal that route and strike action. You do not want to have unsafe working on those. I remember when there were the big strikes and they tried to get inexperienced signallers or other kind of white collar roles to come in and pick up the signal jobs, and there were lots of mistakes and problems made across the network when that happened. So absolutely, it's a key thing to consider. This improves as we continue to centralise and automate signalling, so that helps. But I would say on routes where you do have those signalling pressures, actually it becomes a discussion of, well, actually do we actually do a bus replacement service on that route to ensure that there isn't the pressure on that small pool of signallers. I think this is why you have to look at it on each of a route by route basis. It's like every line of route it has, you can't just have a blanket. You have to think about, well, what is the burden on the staff on this route. Likewise with small pools of drivers with diagrams. If it's like 2 or 3 drivers on a diagram, I don't know enough about rostering to know if there's any diagrams that are that short-handed of that few drivers with route knowledge. But if that is the case, then again you'd have to think, well, actually, is that right? Is that fair? There's a lot of people pointing out that there are lots of signalling staff who are working over Christmas because of all the engineering trains moving around. Absolutely. So there are plenty of signallers who are out there. So, and this, I'll come back to that point, because it's a very common refrain that comes up. Yes. Jack Elliott saying a good rebuke to a lot of these more technical issues is that lots of places do make it work. Yeah, absolutely. Split shifts, NHS do this so you can work 7.5 instead of 13 hours. Yeah, there's lots of solutions, and this is station staff. Sorry, I didn't address station staff. Absolutely the same point. In some instances, is it possible to run trains with is it possible to run the station with a skeleton staff, or in some cases, reduce staffing for that particular day? So you have a special arrangement on that day. So it's not, oh, look, you can, and again, the politics come in. You don't want the DFT to suddenly, or the psychopaths at the Treasury to suddenly go, oh, you can run the railway with this few staff. And it's like, no, this is very unique, special working conditions. We're not going to have station staff on this station other than appearing, maybe skeleton staff to operate it, and we're going to relax some of the restrictions about ticketing, so people can just get their ticket on the train without any risk of being trapped into higher fares, that sort of stuff. So there's lots of, and absolutely, you then need all the operational people to then in the background, all the Network Rail ops staff who then we need to run. But again, reduce service, reduce number of staff. So this means running the rail, the advantage of switching everything off is that all these people don't have to work. But if you switch it on, you need to have these huge numbers of people out, moms, all these people out and about to make sure this works. But if you're running a much reduced service, then you can reduce those staff. And again, if you have a sufficient pool of those staff, as we should, running a proper railway, I don't know why I keep hitting my chin off the mic, as we should, then there should be enough staff that it doesn't, that a burden does not fall on anyone. Yes, James Derrick pointing out full coverage of all departments as stuff still goes wrong. Absolutely, yes. Craig Thurston saying, if you reduce station staff, then you potentially make that station less accessible, which wouldn't be accessible. Of course it wouldn't. But that's why I'm not talking about, like, each circumstance needs to be assessed on that basis. What is the minimum service provision here to ensure that the station is completely accessible, but that we can not have an undue burden. It might well be that because not everyone works at a station. Certainly for most stations, it's not that all the staff who work at that station are working at that station at any given moment. You have lots of shifts and different people working at different times. So it might well be that in some stations where there is a particular accessibility challenge and you need a decent number of staff there, that's fine, and it doesn't cause any problems with roster, volunteer rostering. It all works. It can work. It's not a problem. So that's my thought. That's why and that's why I think that we in terms of the reasons why why we should be running that service. I think we've got lots of people who want to travel and who can't, and I don't think it is. It's really good enough that we completely close the railway. Remember, we want the railway to feel. So part of me feels like there's a political reason why this doesn't happen, and it's because the government has an incentive to make people feel like the railway is a private company that just closes up and sends everyone home on holidays, rather than it being a public service is open all year round. So there's almost like a political and ideological incentive to make people feel less attached to the railway as a public service. Whereas if the railway is running on Christmas Day, running on Boxing Day, running on these holiday days, when people still need to travel, as I've said, it would feel more like a public service. You'd get that feeling of, oh, this is an integral part of society and how everything works, and actually that's really important. Also, as we said, millions of people travel, and I would rather they were travelling by train, given we have, this whole climate situation going on. I'm euphemistically putting snow pictures up everywhere, but sadly nothing looks quite like that anymore. Martha's very, very, very true. A very good point, Martha. Of course, one option to reduce staffing is to just not charge fares on Christmas Day. That would be quite a good idea, actually. Anyway. Right, so let's move on to the next subject, which is, should we concentrate all of our major works on the Christmas blockade? No, we shouldn't do that. We should not do that. I'm sure I've talked about this on Rail Natters before, and I've talked about it on lots of situations. But yeah, this comes back to the point that's being made about signallers earlier. But it's, why should people expect to work on Christmas Day? Why should people be expected to work on Christmas Day? In fact, you know what? Let me fix that. It should actually read. Why should people be expected to work on Christmas Day? Because lots are on a public service. You have to have, the NHS has to still exist. People get sick. In fact, lots of people get ill. People injure themselves. We do lots of engineering works, because that's the point that I'm about to make, which is there is so much going on the railway at this moment, including on Christmas Day. So much. It's just an enormous amount of work. Stuff happening everywhere. 25,000 people, 1,000 machines in 1 week, and the rest of the year we're using maybe 200 or 300 of those machines at any given moment, and obviously a lot fewer of those people. A lot of these, unlike the staff who are not working on Christmas Day, this 25,000 people, they are, a lot of those are contingent workers who do not have, who are either not unionised or have very weak protections. They will be getting paid reasonably well, but again, some of the lower end staff, I mean, it's all network rail agreed rates for the big blockades. They're not bad. They're not fantastic though. And again, I re-emphasize contingent workers, those who are not as well protected and well unionised as signallers and drivers. So, but signallers are working. Plenty of drivers are working. Those trains don't drive themselves. The engineering trains, the tampers, those machine operators, the Kirovs, those are all moving around with drivers, with signallers, and making sure they can move around. And it's all happening in one chaotic extreme, and with a huge amount of pressure. And it only happens once a year. And we have a limited capacity to deliver stuff in that Christmas. And invariably, when things get delayed, then you have to wait another whole year before you can do the engineering work, and that delays and that delays and delays and delays. This is an incredibly stupid way or in fact, it's an incredibly clever way to ensure that as little heavy engineering happens as possible, and that we slow down upgrades to the railway to a crawl. We wonder why stuff takes so long to deliver. It's because we rely on blockades once. Well, okay, we have occasionally we get longer blockades in some bank holidays, and Easter, some work happens at Easter, but it's not the same peak. It's about half the scale of work generally on Easter weekend compared to the Christmas blockade. This is hopeless. It's awful for the staff working because it's a horrible surge. It's you have this uncertainty other than at Christmas. All the machine, this huge fleet of machines that has to exist that doesn't get used for most of the year. It's just hugely, deeply inefficient. It's not a good way to exactly as Martha says, it does not help recruit and retain engineering staff workers. What we should people then seem to think on Twitter were saying, but you have to rely on possessions. No, step back, think differently. Just as with high output being as a system that delivered track renewals at scale, in Europe you close a railway line, you run that system for a few weeks until the railway line is completely renewed. Then the system goes away. In the UK, or rather in GB, we would set that system up. It would arrive. We'd set it up. I've been to these multiples of these shifts. It would run for an hour, maybe an hour and a half. You'd spend multiple hours, 3-4 hours setting it up, 3 hours clearing it away, and then you'd run it for an hour, and that was it. Hopeless. That's so inefficient. Just imagine that for all the other engineering work. You're squeezing this into short shifts. No. We just need to employ more drivers so that we can train more drivers to have better route knowledge so we can run more diversion routes. And we need to do more long blockades throughout the whole year. Spread those blockades around. And we should not do them at public holidays. The other reason we shouldn't do them at public holidays, well, let's just shove this picture up again, just kind of run ourselves what's going on. The other reason we should not do them at public holidays is because public holidays is when you have all your leisure travellers, all your infrequent travellers who are not used to the railways. If they turn, and I've said this before on Railnatter, I know, I don't, on Railnatter Towers, we try to avoid hitting the host with the brick that makes you forget everything you've said at the end of the episode, unlike other episodes, other of our friendly neighbourhood podcasts. I know that I have said this before on multiple episodes, but for, it's absolutely key that we, the amount of work that we deliver, we want to maximise the amount of work that we're delivering. Yes, I did. Funnily enough, I don't get the brick hit at the end of the episode, but I did hit myself with the brick in the middle of the episode there. So there we are. Everyone's going to have to cope with me forgetting the point I was going to make. That's fine. I think you probably all knew where I was going with it anyway. Blockades all year round. No, the point I've made. Sorry. Infrequent travellers, if they turn up and their railway is disrupted, they're never coming back. Whereas commuters, those who travel regularly, so kind of away from public holidays, they travel on the railway regularly, so you can communicate more easily with them. You can tell them what's happening. It's easier for them to make different plans because they've had that communication. They understand the benefits. They understand why the work is happening. They understand the benefits, and they will come back. Infrequent travellers do not. Frequent travellers will. So the ones we should be interrupting are frequent travellers. Now, it is more complicated than that. Freight operations, particularly freight trains and stuff, it's more difficult to disrupt them. But you can work around freight trains, either by diverting them or by allowing them to pass through the site. The site that sort of situation has been done before, but also forward planning and communicating with these operators allows you to kind of understand what they need and then facilitate their needs. Another thing that would make this a lot easier is having just one operator, British Rail, because you don't have to negotiate between 6 or 7 different operators who all have their own different needs and upsets and can get particularly peeved when their trains are being disrupted and they're all competing over maximising how much Schedule 4 payment they get. No, get rid of that and have only one operator, and it gets a lot more straightforward. Oh, and what are the thoughts in the chat? Let me go big face and see what are the general thoughts in the chat. We've kind of gone through a lot of this. Mark Lawrence saying also, if blockades are planned well in advance, commuters can just take their annual leave that week. Yes, indeed. They can just go on the holiday that week. Yes, funny that. More electrification, so they can work as diversion routes, says Michael C. Absolutely. Gas says, I'm surprised that I've gone this long without uttering the magic words rolling programme. Well, indeed. Yeah. It's not bad port, you know. It's reasonably, it's a bit peppery. It's pretty run-of-the-mill stuff, but it's all right. It's their number one special reserve. I don't know whether that's a particularly fancy one, but it's tasty. And despite the name, it is Portuguese. It is official stuff. Yes. So. Lots of good discussion. Anyway, yeah, just chuck over to at me if you've got thoughts. Has there been much noise on what Labour plan to do regarding train operating companies? Not a huge amount. I think blockades should be weekly and personalised to type of traffic in that area. Absolutely. Again, all this stuff is not one rule, one size fits all. And in some cases, you might still need Christmas works. You know, that might be the most optimum time for a particular bit of railway in terms of minimising disruption. Fine, but we need to be much more comfortable in spreading our engineering work around the whole year, because we'll get more done. We'll upgrade our railway more quickly. The idea that we just do everything once a year, that we kind of do all this stuff, it's just baffling. It doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense. Richard Fraser was asking if I'm ready for gout. I've drunk so little this last, well, multiple years, but certainly the last year. The amount of alcohol I've consumed is enormously small. So I'm not too worried about the old gout. Although it's amazing. Funny story. It's amazing how many railway engineers on my side, like more office-based railway engineers, do have gout. It's quite, I do know quite a few engineers with gout. It's a thing. Gout is a thing. It's the Henry VIII disease. But no. Lots of railway engineers today have gout. The amount I've eaten this Christmas, maybe, but. No, I think probably I'm reasonably healthy, relatively. Anyway. So, right, enough of this waffling. Right, let's press this button because... Oh no, I don't want to press this button yet. I want to get rid of my face, get rid of my stupid face, or at least hide it in the corner. So, those are the two questions. Should we run a better railway service over the holiday season, and should we concentrate all of our major works on the Christmas blockade? And you can kind of see how these interrelate, because obviously, if you are running services over Christmas, then you can't do the big blockade. You have to start thinking differently. So that there is an interrelationship between these two. But these are the 2 points I think that map on. I've got my view. But because I don't, it's not a hill I'm willing to die on. This is something that I feel strongly about, but it's not. But there's clearly mixed feelings out there, and I suppose the debate continues. I don't have a vigorous, strong. Sam is saying, did anyone ask if blockades can avoid weekends? Yeah, I'm of the view that the best thing we can do, and sometimes you might straddle multiple weeks and therefore weekends. But I'm of the view that. By the way, there's going to be an episode coming up where there's some data. So Murphy's one of the contractors did some work. On the West Coast Main Line, and they, rather than doing the usual rules of the route possessions or even short line blocks on weekends, they did longer periods of working over multiple weeks, and there are multiple things that they saved, but the main thing they ended up measuring was carbon purely from the fuel of the machines, not even carbon from people travelling to site, but just from the fuel of the machines by not driving them to and from site. And it represented a 90% saving on carbon to do the renewals work versus traditional methods of rules of the route, kind of nighttime possessions during the week. Really quite impressive numbers. I will do an episode on that. I might even get get Tony on to talk about it, because it was really quite impressive stuff. It was fantastic. So Sam, by the way, Sam, lovely to see you. Sam Easterby Smith, nice to see you. Lots of lovely familiar faces in the chat today. It's lovely to have you along. 106 people watching. It's bloody Christmas, and you're all here enjoying a tipple. Hopefully, you've all. Important question. Who? This is what I want to know in the chat now. While we come to the end, is what are people drinking, and how many mince pies have you eaten during the episode? That's the important question I want to know. So right, let's hop forward. Let's vote again. So let's just do a quick. Let's do this. So this is the before vote. I'm going to end that poll. There we go. That's a dingity ding. Because in fact, I'm going to go big face momentarily. Hello everyone. Because I'm just going to drop this in. So let me just drop this in here. Should we run some trains on Christmas Day? This is the before one, so that's fine. Let's just do this. I'm literally creating and editing slides on the hoof. This is what you know me for. There we go. Let's go. This is before. Let's now ask another poll, which is let's go. That's another poll. Start a poll. Should we run some trains on Xmas Day? Question mark. Start a poll, and we'll see where that ends up at the end of the episode. So let's run that one. Let's run that. Fine, good. Oh dear me. All right, let's get rid of my face. So actually, let's get rid of my face entirely, because while that happens and you send me what people are drinking and consuming, some people are unhappy about the concept of mince pies. Haley is drinking breakfast tea. Very nice. That sounds quite nice, actually. Rum and pineapple. Very, very nice. Oh, crikey. Shortest rail natter ever. Turns out the answer is yes. It's not. That's not. There've been shorter rail natters. What else we got? Peroni Zero, one mince pie and a bit of Christmas pud. Oh, I didn't have Christmas pud this year. Yeah, sad. My grandparents, my grandmother used to send me one, but yeah, no booze or mince pies, just a Coke and some fruit pastels. Oh, don't combine those. Your stomach will explode. There we are. Hamish Harvey is happy. Hello, Hamish. Happy with weekday blockades, but if they're not network-wide, then long-distance travel could get very difficult. From here in Cardiff, can't get many places of interest on a single line. Yeah, there's lots of things to think about and how the system all fits together. Yeah, for sure. Copperberg mixed fruit and 3 mince pies. 3 mince pies. That's a good effort. Ethan 46441. Master Trams don't drink alcohol, so I'm having water. Absolutely fair enough. I was tempted to, I'm actually kind of hovering on the edge of a fever at the moment, so I was tempted to have honey and lemon tea, but I thought poor. Anyway, and between all members of family, all the mince pies were consumed by yesterday. Decimated. Gareth is on the same as this has been alcohol or drinks and mince pies corner. Bombay mix from Camaroff, and Gareth is drinking the same as last time. A New Zealand sov, just a 1 mince pie, but a slice of soda bread made by my own fair hands. Lovely. That's the good content. That's the wholesome content you want to hear. Talking of which, Bridge Enthusiast is drinking a Bewdley Brewery beers, very rare inspired, very nice. Caffeine-free Coke Zero, 100 grams of Hotel Chocolat, very nice. Oh, there's a couple of Florentines that I might have this evening. That'd be nice. Anyway, it's Christmas. We're allowed to think pleasant. We're all here collectively enjoying each other's company. Yes, anyway, I waffle on. Thanks to everyone listening. This will be weird after the fact, won't it? This is a very collegiate and in fact, it kind of feels like we're all at the pub for a live episode again. There will be live episodes next year, by the way, folks. 98% likelihood, 95% likelihood. It's obviously very family related. It depends how the wee one copes, but it's once the wee one's happier and more independent, then I'll be more comfortable doing that. It might well be there's going to be Cardiff. It might well be back in York again, but there will be a live episode at some point next year. I'm very confident and excited to do one because it was good fun. The usual plugs. Patreon.com/Gareth Dennis to support the show and ensure this sort of stuff can continue happening in some form or other. GarethDennis.uk/merch for the merchandise. PayPal.me/Gareth Dennis for loose change and abuse. And the discussions going on. Robin Weston having a big bowl of Twiglets and some dips, by the way, very nice. Some alcohol-free Erdinger. It's not bad, actually, that one. It tastes I mean, I find Erdinger weird, and it tastes about as weird as Erdinger. So yeah, that's fine. Nice one, Emir. Yeah, hey, Harvey on a Bordeaux and some mini chocolate muffins. Oh, very nice. Anyway, Gareth Dennis, good grief. Can't say my own website. GarethDennis.co.uk/Discord for the Discord server, where this chat continues. And there is a pub in the Discord server where you can continue this discussion, share discussions of your tipples. Very nice. Right, so an update on the YouTube. We didn't make, or yet, unless there's a surge, we've not quite made our target. We have reached 9,385 followers, which is not bad. Only 615 to go to reach the big 10,000. I'm very pleased with that. We certainly had a big surge after I put this slide on the thing. So the advertising seems to work. So that's nice. Next week is, it's not a live one, episode 199. Hyperloop 1 is gone. But when will this nonsense die? We're going to talk about Hyperloop. We're going to talk about all the still existing Hyperloop fraudster scam companies that exist still, parody in Minecraft, allegedly, etc. That'll be fun. We're going to talk about Hyperloop. It's going to be a Hyperloop episode. We're going to start the year on a Hyperloop episode. That'll be nice, won't it? Right, so I'm gonna end this poll, and we're gonna. Here we go. Right, let's have a look. I actually should have screenshotted it differently last time, but then it's fine. I'm going to do this, and then there we are. Ding-a-ding. You can hear the dings. I'm going to go down here, paste this in here. I'm going to go after. There we are. After, and that looks fine to me. Good, because you'd be glad to know, in true professional style. So the before and after polls here. There's the before. So we had 72% of people reckon we should run some trains on Christmas Day, and the after poll, which I didn't screenshot it this way, which means it looks different, but this is the after poll, was 82%. So there's been some improvement on the number of people. Fewer people voted the second time round, admittedly. So it's not a perfect system, but anyway, it's fine. It's the first live episode that Simon C858's called. Pleasure to have you along. This sort of thing. This counts as a podcast, believe it or not. It's quite remarkable. Anyway, good to have you all along. It only really remains to say to end with this, because there's no Class 1998 train, not yet. Anyway, it only remains for me to give you this picture from, I think, the early 1900s. I'm going to go with 1909 off the top of my head. Of Euston Station, and the fact that the whole thing was paved on the throat, which is really bizarre. I did not realise this. Very strange choices of P-way and a nightmare to maintain. But I suppose that's fine when labour's cheap. Also some fun signals. These fun signals with the discs around them and all. There's a lot going on here, basically. Euston Station at this point was an absolute hell, just absolute hell chaos. Just a lot of chaos everywhere. Anyway, this is the picture we're going to end 2023 on, because this is the last episode of 2023. Why on earth was it paved, Jack? Yeah, exactly. I do not know. Everyone, let's go big face briefly. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you along. This is the genuine soppy bit where I go. It's been an interesting year. All sorts of bad things happening, but also lots of very beautiful and happy things happening for me, and hopefully for all of you as well in some way or other. And a lot of you with me here in the chat have accompanied me on this journey. We're in the 4 years of rail. Well, it's 2020. It's going to be 4 years of Rail Natter next year. That's baffling. 4 years, nearly 200 episodes. Whew. And I don't know, where does it go from here? Well, probably about similar, because I have a day job still, and I'm not doing this full time. And the whole point, the thing that I think makes me good at doing this, or interesting at doing this, is that I do have the day job in the rail industry, and I'm wired into it in multiple different ways. So that ain't changing, and it'll continue to be this shonky. But it's interesting. Hopefully we have good chats and we talk about interesting things, and there'll be some fun episodes next year, I'm sure. We need to get certain railway celebrities in who've said, hello, can I be on the podcast? So we need to get that sorted. I know we've got a good episode coming up in February that I'm looking forward to, a friend of mine coming on. There's some good stuff coming up, and lots of extra goodies. If you join the Patreon, you get to chat and discuss things, and you get various little bonuses and goodies and so on. We need the currency episode with Gareth. Absolutely, the railway currency episode. Yes, 2 Gareths in 1 episode. Can society cope? I don't know. Anyway, right. Enough of me waffling. I just, you're all lovely. I'm hoping that the next week should be fun, and we'll have lots of angry people joining from Elon Muskville. That should be good fun. I'm looking forward to that. Yes, another live episode next week. Anyway, right, enough of me waffling. You've all been lovely. It's 21:04 in the UK. I'm going to finish sipping this as I record something for Dave Frankel. David is in the chat. Hello, David. I will. I will see you all. I'll see you all in 2024. Have a very happy, safe, warm, friend and family ridden, I hope. And if not friend and family ridden, then at least comfortable, warm, and safe New Year. New Year's the best evening. New Year's Eve is the best day of the year. Everyone, that's the special time for me. That's the big one. The changing of the year. The bell tolls, and we all watch Cahoot Nanny with our head in our hands. Anyway, right, everyone. Cheerio! Cheerio!